In the movie about the accident, Sweet Dreams, this is what happens.
Oh my God! Johnny!
All accounts exclusively state that the plane struck an oak tree. One of the first people on the scene was Jerry Pfifer, an 18-year-old police officer in Camden, Tennessee.
Well, of course, it was dark, and that particular night it was rainy and kind of foggy and misty, and the wind blowing and lightning, and it wasn't a very good night to be flying, I don't think.
The wreckage was spotted at 6 a.m. by a father-son search party and an official searcher scanning the area with binoculars from the fire tower, also used as a rendezvous point. The highway patrol arrived 15 minutes later, then a trickle, a stream, and then a flood of other people filled the area.
There was a funny feeling came over me at that time. I just, it felt like there'd be probably death there,
Yeah.
Plane and bodies were strewn down the hollow some 250 feet from where the craft apparently sliced an oak tree high in the air. I almost had a nervous breakdown when I ran down and saw the bodies. I had to sit down on a log and then walk out to the road till help came, said Farmer Hollingsworth. Tennessee State Trooper Troy Odell was up all night helping with the search and was the first official on the scene. I've never seen a wreck as bad, he said.
I got in about halfway, and I got looking around for bodies, and I couldn't find none, so I happened to look down, and I was standing on a piece of flesh, and that made me feel very, very awful. It really upset me very much, and I got looking around, and that all it was flesh, just pieces.
All were stunned. Talk was low, if any. It was in whispers. And still the people came, some with infants in their arms, some on crutches. Cars were piled up along the twisting gravel road over the hills and around the curves as far as could be seen. The green and yellow pieces of metal were identified by number 700P as the plane carrying the Opry stars. The 4 bodies were equally torn and scattered. Raymer Stockdale of the Stockdale and Mullen Funeral Home in Camden said identification of the men could be made only by their billfolds, which miraculously weren't torn away.
We found more Patsy Cline, I'd say, than anyone else. She was wedged in under a log, partly, at the very far end of where all this material was through at. Her torso was always intact, and part of her head and her long black hair was identifiable, reason we knew it was her.
Bits and scraps of the plane were scattered all over the area. One section said Comanche 250. One tire was far off to the left, another far off to the right, the third straight down the hollow. The 5 or 6 foot wide hole where the single engine plane first hit the steep hillside was filled with water, lending support to many statements that rain accompanied the stout gusts of wind at the time of the crash.
Also, we found one of her feet wedged in a fork of a tree, just like this. It broke off its ankle and a foot just hanging in the fork of a tree. And the reason we knew it was her foot, it had a fingernail polish on the toenails.
A white belt with Hawkshaw Hawkins in gold letters lay beside a black and white cowboy boot. The other boot lay some 20 feet away beside the black and silver broken neck of a guitar saying Hawkshaw. A black sock fluttered several feet above in a tree branch. A soft slipper, gold and muddy, just like the one Patsy Cline was seen wearing at Dyersburg, pointed toward the impact site. A broken silver expansion watch band lay resting near one of the flyer's Bibles. Clothes flapped in the breeze. Scattered pieces of a greenback jigsaw puzzle littered the sleeping area, simple to solve compared to the massive puzzle of jagged metal and torn flesh. The searchers, members of the county sheriff's office, the Camden Police Department, the Highway Patrol, the Civil Air Patrol, Civil Defense, farmers, and townspeople continued their grim tasks in relative silence.
People started taking pieces of plane off immediately. It's just amazing how things happen at nature. There's 2 or 3 men dug the engine out of the ground and carried it off.
The bodies were taken to the Stockdale and Mullen Funeral Home in Camden, but were moved to Phillips Robinson Funeral Home in Nashville. Prayer services for the 4 were conducted at 5 p.m. March 7th at the Phillips Robinson Funeral Home. The body of Patsy Cline was taken to Winchester, Virginia, her home, for services at 3 p.m. Saturday at Jones Funeral Home, followed by burial at Shenandoah Memorial Park in Winchester. Joint services for Harold Lloyd Copas and Ramsey Hughes were at 10 a.m. Friday at Phillips Robinson Funeral Home. Dr. W.E. Darby officiated burial for both at Forest Lawn Cemetery. Services for Hawkshaw Hawkins were at 3:30 Friday at Phillips Robinson Funeral Home. Dr. W.E. Darby officiated burial at Forest Lawn Cemetery. Caskets for the four were sealed with an 11 by 14 photo of each person on display.